The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in Dodge City. I mean, Fall River. I'm sorry. So I guess I already tipped our hand what we're going to lead with. There was an alleged shots.
7 shots.
7 shots fired.
On Stafford Road.
At the 1800 block at approximately 4 p.m. That's what was posted by some people. But then again, what do they know?
That's right.
Do they have bullet holes in their houses? You can't even make statements like this unless you got a bullet hole in your house.
Right.
Because remember, our mayor says that if you don't have a bullet hole, don't say shots are flying around all over Fall River. There's nothing's going on.
But
in Fall River.
he said to the gentleman who said, "I have a bullet hole in my house." Just because you have a bullet hole in your house doesn't mean there are bullets flying all over Fall River.
Yeah, well, maybe the fact that they are flying all over Fall River. They were in a Flint this last weekend, down a couple blocks away from me.
Yep, St. Joseph Street.
And then there was shots in your neighborhood.
Yep.
And now it's back down to the south end. So they're equal opportunity shell casing shooters.
I noticed there's not a lot of shootings in the Highlands, though.
Yes, yeah. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. But it's not. That's not why. But,
Could it be the increased police patrols up there that might be?
Yeah, increased police patrols in the quietest place in the in the city. Yeah. Well, of course. Look, the elite have to stay. They have. It's like Nancy Pelosi. Mm-hmm. San Francisco's become, I think, one of the highest crime rates, if not the highest, I think, at one time for a while, in the country. But she doesn't care. She lives on a gated estate. And if you get near them, you got the National Guard, the state police, and all of the San Francisco PD responding there in 2 minutes.
Unless you're carrying a hammer.
But, yeah, and I mean, there's no shots fired. So we're going to bring this little gem up again. This was posted, obviously, because I don't do Facebook, but one of our loyal viewers sent to this, Kathleen Roy, born in this city and still live here, never. And it's highlighted, isn't that? When in text jargon, it's like you're yelling?
Yep.
Okay. Never had shootings. At least 2 a week now. When will it stop? Out of control. A little, like a...
Sad faces crying.
Yes.
Emojis.
I don't know what those emojis... One of them's got a tear, so I figure that's a crying. I don't know what that red thing is.
Angry.
Angry? Okay. Angry emoji. Now, I'm learning something now because you can tell I don't do Facebook and this stuff because I don't know this stuff. Angry emoji and crying emoji. Always looking around me. Always paying attention. What has happened? Paul E. Coogan. You must see the change. No, he doesn't. He hid in the school department for his entire life. Got everybody where they get pay raises behind closed doors and give all their friends jobs. And now he's bringing it over to Fall River where we have the most patronage-filled city I've ever seen on the city side now. $19,000 pay raises, $14,000 pay raises, all to his friends. And then, but we got bigger problems here, and this is the problem. And it is attributed to, I talked to a retired police officer the other day, and he said, without hesitation, the problem lies in lack of leadership by the mayor. Mm-hmm. He's not doing anything. He said,
but we've been saying that for months.
I know. For 3 years, he hasn't. We've had 3 police chiefs.
Right.
And he also alleged, remember that.
Yep.
And if this is true, they're violating the law. He also alleged that he gave his friend, we know they're friendly because the person's wife is very friendly.
Right. Gave
him the job. And we're not saying, and I don't think any police chief could take this department because it's in a total state of disarray. We have been contending that we need somebody from the outside to come in here and deal with the issues here. But he said they also people are leaving not only because they're 9,000, but they're leaving because there's so much patronage. He said they actually are promoting outside the civil service lists.
You can't do that.
That's exactly right, CJ.
You can't
Thank
do
you.
that.
You can't do that.
That's right.
They are a civil service department. And you have to abide by the civil service regulations. So, all of these things, you know, they contribute to a breakdown of morale. People want to leave. You know, I can't get promoted even if I'm on a list. They're going to jump over me and promote their friends. I'm not going to stay on this department. I'm going to go somewhere if I take it. And they all take exams.
Right.
They take civil service exams.
Right.
For these jobs.
And they pay for them.
And they're being bypassed.
Yep.
And that was unheard of in the old days. But this guy, well, we know the school department. But then another thing that, you know, we are always talking about skewed media. Not telling the truth. Now, we know that happens all the time. We know that now, I said a long time ago, and that Colonel McGregor said that, you know, the Ukraine's getting its butt kicked over there. Now, all of a sudden, they're losing the war. We got to give them tanks. We got to give them, now they're going to look for planes, and then maybe nukes, and we're going to be in World War III. Because, you know, everybody's making money off the arms. And the thing is, that's an issue. But why do they suppress and not say these things in the Fall River Herald News? Now, this is GBH News.
That's PBS.
That is PBS.
PBS.
And that's pretty bad because public radio is probably, any public situation, pretty liberal.
Yep.
They don't like that. So this is a report, and this is what it says. Fall River man sues city for alleged assault, prompting added concerns about police misconduct. And then it talks about Lawrence Scaligo claims he was injured in a terrifying police raid gone awry in his Fall River apartment 3 years ago. Said that, and the officers filed a false police report for wrongful conduct. Of course, these are all allegations, but this is from his lawyer. His lawyer said he lives on the 3rd floor. They clearly used excessive force. They went into the wrong apartment, and it was some pretty serious things. And it's like, and this is a quote. The lawsuit alleges that, you know, after they assaulted him, he began to lose consciousness and was so terrified he soiled himself. And of course, our lawyer, who I never heard of, you ever hear this guy, Thomas Donahue?
No, never
They
heard
just keep sticking people in there
Yeah.
from somewhere, and we don't know. We just keep paying. We keep paying these guys. Or it might be an outside firm that they hire, like they always do. But see, this is the thing that disturbed me, CJ, about this article. And why didn't we hear this in Fall River? Now, this is not this guy's lawyer. This is a civil rights attorney. Civil rights attorney Howard Friedman, who settled a misconduct case with the city in 2019, related to a separate civil case against Paseo, says he's not. This is the key to this. Is what's really disturbing. Right. That we've been this guy's been mayor for 3 years. This department has absolutely disintegrated. There's no even the slightest bit of attention to what's happening here. There's nothing. No crisis has been declared. No, I'm gonna do something if I have to. We're short-staffed. We're not gonna make these people work double shifts. I'm gonna find out if we can get, you know, police officers from other cities to come over here and ride in the cars. We're gonna get the sheriff's department, the National Guard, anything. We got to protect this city. Nothing, nada, crickets. But this is what this lawyer said. He's not surprised that Fall River is facing more charges. He said the problem is that the city doesn't punish those who do wrong. And this is a quote. They feel empowered because the powers that be don't do anything to prevent misconduct, unquote. He said, another quote, it is a department where the police officers in their union are seen to be more or less in charge. In other words, an unfettered, no control over the department for professional standards. And listen, I respect good police officers, but The reality is we can't have this kind of conduct. Look what's happening on a national stage now with those 4 black police officers who will probably see widespread riots throughout this country because of supposedly they're releasing the body cam today. And I saw police officers on the national news who had been police officers for decades in big cities say it was the worst abuse they've ever seen. And these officers are now, they've been fired and they're going to be prosecuted. But I mean, this is an endemic problem. I saw one officer that said, well, it's, and he pointed out something that's very true, because it's like, we don't think of that. We're not, I mean, nursing, I know fire, and I know we can't put a boot, an inexperienced firefighter in a dangerous situation without somebody. But he's saying, and this guy said, and he may have a point, not that it's justifying it, and he's not justifying it. He said that conduct is totally, it just hurts all the good police officers. He said, these police officers are all fairly new guys. He said they get in this critical situation and they get tremendous adrenaline surge. They're afraid, they're hyped up, they're amped up, and they just, like mob psychology, the 4 of them, he said it could have been, because, this is his theory, but this guy's got 38 years or 37 years in the New York City Police Department, and he's talking about how this is not supposed to happen, but it's happening now, because he said so many people are leaving policing experienced officers. What you're supposed to do is always have an experienced officer with these new guys. When they start getting like that, they have to learn how to de-escalate not only the situation, but the young officer, and teach them how to behave in those situations, not allow the adrenaline to overtake what he does. And look at our police department. We're losing all our experienced officers. Even if we rebuild that department again, we're going to have all inexperienced officers, police officers and patrolmen, and those people are going to be promoted to supervisory positions without the proper experience, and without learning from people with the proper experience. So fundamentally, the 3 years of ignoring this problem, and kudos to Kathleen Roy for writing that, we fundamentally destroyed our police department. We're going to have to rebuild that thing from the bottom up, and that is a travesty that this mayor he's sitting in his office pretending nothing happened, whether it's Malone, whether it's the police department literally being totally destroyed before our eyes. It's crazy.
What's very interesting is that I don't remember any of this happening under James LaCorrea. I don't remember any of this happening under Sam Sutter. I don't remember any of this happening under Will Flanagan. I don't remember any of this happening under Ed Lambert. Okay? And all of this, it falls on one person. It falls on the mayor. And so the mayor is, in effect, destroying public safety for the city of Fall River.
He already has, and he's done the same thing with our EMS. He's increased their running time, and they have the audacity to say that that's not going to matter. It matters as much as I do. As a first responder, and getting to and doing CPR on people, I know how much that minute counts, and you, as a nurse, obviously know.
Oh yeah.
And for them to get up there and say, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's within the response time." Well, guess what? If you could have been 2 blocks away from my house or a half a mile away from my house, and you would have got there a minute and a half earlier, and one of my relatives died, I'm going to sue your butt off for doing this. And cities have been sued for doing stuff like this.
I know.
But this is incredible, because the other thing, and look, I understand where he comes from. He comes from the hermit kingdom that's called the school department, where your relatives get on a job, all of a sudden they get a big pay raise, and then they're a vice principal, and then they're a principal, and they get all kinds of pay raises. Your friends get all kinds of, and he's brought that over to the city. And we're going to do a nice deep dive, I think. We're going to look at all the last budgets and see how many giant pay raises he's given to particular people, and then find out that mysteriously they gave to his campaign or their allies. And this is not the way you run a community, especially in public safety and education. The two most important factors, remember those 4 factors I brought up about the destruction of a civilization and a city. The first one was crime.
Yep.
3 years in a row, this mayor has been told that we were #1 in crime. When it doesn't matter, Paul, if you want to say, well, I saw a study that said we were only #3, because it doesn't matter. We're having a crime problem in this city. We got bullets flying. Never, and I've lived in this city all my life, absent the time I was in the military. It's the only time I have lived in this city. I didn't move to Somerset when I retired like some people did. Or Westport, like other people did, who then came back and ran for mayor and city council and school committee. I have never seen it like this. Fall River always was a tough city. You could see a lot of fights and a lot of barroom fights and a lot of things like that. But we never had bullets flying all over the place. We never had people being shot in the back, 60-year-old people shot in the back, in a relatively quiet neighborhood.
Right.
St. Joseph Street
It's very quiet.
is not Corky Row.
That's
and that's no disparagement on Corky Row. It's a reality. Corky Row has always been a little bit. Now, if you move in other parts of the Flint, where I grew up, it was a pretty tough neighborhood too, around the mills. But St. Joseph Street, right across the street from Notre Dame Church, Lafayette Park, that was a very, very quiet neighborhood. And I know it because I grew up near the mills, but I bought a house near Lafayette Park. And I've lived there for a very, very long time. When I first bought that house, after 9 o'clock at night, you couldn't hear a peep in that neighborhood. There was nothing.
Those are the days when the streetlights came on. All the kids went home.
And all the kids went home,
Otherwise, you'd get cracked.
and you could leave your doors open.
That's right.
But this is inexcusable. It's not partisan. It's not, I dislike them. I told you, personally, came to the breakfast, sat down. Hey, how you doing? Sit down. We reserved you a table. No big deal. But he's an incompetent as a mayor. And he comes from it, and he's the worst mayor in the history of Fall River for doing anything, and also for patronage. This can't go on. This city is a mess. And how could you go? There's no justification for being the mayor for 3 years, having this city being recognized as the most dangerous city in the state. And I don't want to debate it. You're in the top 5, we shouldn't be there. To have 145 patrolmen on the street or less in a city now, one of the lowest amounts we've had in history, when crime is running rampant, bullets are flying, not one peep from anybody. They're just going along, apparently, and alleging that, what are they using it for? Another patronage pit. We're going to violate civil service law to make promotions. And I'm saying again, it's an allegation. But if it's true, and believe me, there will be people checking into this now. Because there are allegations that certain people got on the job by jumping stuff on a civil service list, which is illegal. But there's a greater issue here. The safety of the people of Fall River. And he has done nothing. He hasn't even acknowledged it. And as a matter of fact, he just deflected it with that cavalier attitude of, what are you talking about? Just because you got a bullet hole in your house, you got a complaint? What's the matter with you? A citizen complaining because he's got a bullet hole in his house? What a crazy person. That guy's crazy. He must be crazy. I mean, the next time you get a bullet hole, don't go down to City Hall, because that doesn't mean there's bullets flying all over Fall River. I mean, that kind of attitude where you dismiss everything because you live in a quiet neighborhood and you have no intention of staying in Fall River when you're not the mayor is absolute BS. And something's got to be done. This guy's got to go.
I have no argument. And, when you look at our police department, we have officers, we have patrolmen working 16-hour shifts. How can they be effective working that many hours? And think about the budget. How much overtime is being spent just to keep staffing levels up?
Yeah, but you know what they're gonna do? Because they like this. Because they're working the 16-hour shifts, but all those police officers on the job now, they're getting their full pay, full benefits, and their health care.
Right.
It's gonna be free cash. So, but they don't care. Because number one, how about burnout? How about stress for these police? Look, I understand, and not only that, it's alleged that they're not only working double shifts and getting overtime, they're making a lot of money, but people don't want to work that endlessly, but they're also getting an additional day off for doing that. So what are we going to do, accrue comp time and then pay everybody for 2 years again when they get off the job? There are a lot of questions now with some of these allegations that are beginning to be leaked. And when they went in front of the council and talked about this stuff, they don't want forced overtime. And it's true. Actually, I'm going to remember a case, you know, my labor memory. You may know this case too. And actually, I knew the person because I actually consulted for that union. It was a state nurses.
Oh, okay, I know the one you're talking about.
They were requiring them to stay on shift because they didn't want to hire anybody.
Right.
And they took them to court and they won. They said, you know, they were forcing them like you can force police and fire because say, well, we have to work because it's a public safety issue. Nurses too. It's a public, you've got to stay on duty because we don't have, but they ruled that that wasn't true, that shortage was precipitated by their not hiring people.
Right.
And they could have hired people, but they chose not to. They chose to make these people work forced overtime. And that case was a long time ago, but you remember it.
I do remember it. And you know, the interesting thing is that when you work for the state, because I worked for the state as a nurse too, and I worked in both DMH and DOC. That's Department of Mental Health and Department of Corrections for you people that don't know. We were forced overtime all the time. And the reason that they said that was because it's a public safety issue. And when you're in the Department of Corrections, it's definitely a public safety issue because even though you're a nurse, you're classified as a correctional officer. So your job is to be there. And when you go into lockdown, you don't move until that lockdown is ended. That could be 2 days. I mean, and it becomes difficult. But we never had the option of saying, oh, well, we don't have to because there's a court case. Because guess what? It didn't apply to us.
No.
But it did increase the burnout of not only correctional officers, but nurses, mental health aides, everything. They burnt out because they were forced to work all this overtime.
Yeah. And think about the pressure now that these officers are facing. The good officers, like I said, to me, you know, police are special people because they go out there and put their life on the line, like firefighters do, every day, like military people do. They're putting their life on the line. They're willing to sacrifice their life for the people, for the public. Those people's job are being made far more difficult and far more dangerous because of politicians, especially, and like in this, ignoring this problem. They're burnt out. They're on the street all the time. Now look at what's going to happen nationally with the 4 police officers. Now those police officers, the good police officers who comprise the majority, the people who walk in there every day and strap a gun on and walk out into the streets to protect people's lives, they're going to be attacked and victimized by these rioters because they're wearing a uniform. And they're not the bad guys. They're the good guys. But they have to go out there tonight to try to protect people from these rioters and try to keep these rioters. And that's not right. And they wonder why now we can't get people to be police officers, let alone in a city like this where they make them pay for their training, and then you get on a job and they bypass you for promotions, and there's all kinds of favoritism, allegedly. This is just not the way to run a railroad, you know, unless you don't want any passengers. So this is it. Look, and this is what bothers me. Why isn't that quote somewhere in Fall River? Why isn't that quote about this lawyer, this civil service lawyer who's saying it? Fall River. Again, you remember the old quote from the judge in Boston? I'm sick and tired of seeing Fall River up here.
Court.
Because why? Because they don't do what?
They don't follow the law.
They don't follow the law. And we've got a mayor, 3 years, and look, and I don't want to hear COVID. You know, I had to stay in it. No, I told you, Taunton did something during COVID. They revamped their entire government. This guy did nothing except take care of his friends and the developers and the doctors and the lawyers. This is just, it's tragic. I feel so much empathy for these police officers that have to work about like this. It's crazy. You can't do this. You can't allow this situation has reached critical mass. We have a critical situation in this city. We're understaffed, crime is running, bullets are flying, and we have a mayor that actually had the audacity, the temerity, and every other adjective we can pull out of our sesquipedalian dictionary. Okay? It's like to just get away, peasants. Like, don't talk to me just because you got a bullet hole in your house and they're not flying all over the city. Damn. Do you ever read a paper? Or are you too busy figuring out where your next pay raise is going to go?
The other thing is we can't trust our local news outlets because they don't report on anything.
No.
I mean, it's interesting to see that we got to go to Channel 10, Channel 12, Channel 6.
Or GBH
or
News.
GBH to get news on what's going on. Yeah. And, you know, GBH's story is from January 25th, which was Wednesday.
Yeah.
But, you know, one of the things I noticed is they used the stock photo they had for Government Center. Did you read what's under it? Fall River City Hall in Fall River, Massachusetts is pictured on December 12, 2018. Bowing to pressure from the marijuana industry and state lawmakers, Fall River is preparing to reduce the size of payments it seeks from local cannabis operators in exchange for granting them permission to open in the city. That was under Jay's Correa.
Yeah, and has Paul ever, that's a very good point, and we're going to have to wrap this up shortly, let you close it out. But Monday we'll be talking about this because, you know, that's another thing that's going to bite us in the butt in the budget.
Yeah.
They're going to be given less to the city.
That's right.
And has that ever been mentioned by our crack financial team? No.
You mean the one that stays on the phone during city council meetings?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jesus, these people, I'm telling you. Okay.
Well, at least I got us at the end of the show.
Yeah, and I'm not going to, it'll take me forever, but that's, this is crazy. Good. So take it away, CJ. This is just, I am so, this article and what this lawyer said to not be on the front page of the Herald News is a disgrace, and it shows what a bunch of bobble-headed flunkies they are for any political administration now.
Well,
that's why their readership is down to virtually nothing.
But you know, when you look at this administration, the mayor negotiates the contracts with the unions. One of the unions is represented by the mayor's brother.
Yep.
The human resources director at the school department is the mayor's brother. The mayor's got a nephew or a cousin that's a teacher, or now a vice principal or a principal. So you see the patronage that's going on, and that's nepotism right there.
That's only the tip of it, too.
And that's only the tip of it. And the worst part about it is that the mayor approached ethics during the Malone situation that said, because my brother is the human resources director, can I render a vote or a decision on, and they said, no, it's an ethical violation. Well, if everything that the human resources director does, he can't act upon, then how come he's acting upon it now? It was convenient for Malone, but now it's not convenient anymore. So remember, this is what's happening, and Fall River is just going to go right down the toilet, and we're going to see the failing of the city. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Monday.